Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some really exciting news coming out Friday afternoon for the Auburn fans. Redshirt freshman quarterback Hank Brown going to get the nod and start for Auburn against New Mexico Saturday night. And, for the Auburn fans who've been rocking with the boys for the last couple of weeks and months, we've talked extensively about Hank Brown, but specifically in this situation, I think this makes so much sense. And I think most notably, like this gives Auburn and Hugh Freeze the ability to kind of figure out if Hank Brown is going to be the guy heading into 2025. Like, how do we talk about this Auburn team really for the last couple months? Yes, we think they can win a lot of football games in 2024, but we think this team can be special in 2025. And going with Hank Brown, giving him the ability to, kind of show this coaching staff that he can be a quarterback you can win at the highest level with makes a ton of sense. And so now Hugh Freeze gets this time to kind of understand, hey, is this a quarterback that we can build around heading into 2025? Or are we going to need to go into the transfer portal after the 2024 season and bring a quarterback in? I think that makes the most sense because, again, for Auburn, it's always been 2025 and 2026. And that's not saying they can't win football games. You guys know I think this Auburn team, from a lot of aspects, is really improved heading into 2024. That being said, we think this team can compete at really the highest level in the SEC come 2025, but you want to make sure you get the quarterback position right. And going with Hank Brown, a guy that's a redshirt freshman that has flashed at times during his Auburn career, makes a lot of sense and gives Auburn the ability to really know if Hank Brown's going to be the guy, the future for this Auburn offense over the next couple of years. Want to do a couple of different things. One, talk about Hank Brown and what we've seen from him so far. Talk about what this Auburn offense might look like heading into New Mexico and the next couple of weeks. Now, before we get into it, as always, and most importantly, to the Auburn fans, we talked about this a couple of days ago. You guys kind of heard my takes that I would like to see Auburn lean into Hank Brown and see what he has. Would love to hear how you guys are feeling in the comment section. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's start with what we've seen from Hank Brown thus far. And I think one of the arguments for why Auburn fans were kind of banging the table to see more Hank Brown is when you've seen Hank Brown play, although a small sample size, he gives Auburn just as much, if not a better chance to win football games. And I understand that Payton Thorne has looked really good in spring practice and in fall camp and during practice. Hugh Freeze was very vocal that, hey, it's hard for me as a head coach to go with the quarterback that hasn't looked as good in practice and then go start him on Saturdays, which again, I think makes a lot of sense. But there are some situations that we see really all over the college football landscape where some players are just good practice players, but when the lights get bright and it's time to put it together on Saturday, they ain't that great. And quite frankly, that has been Payton Thorne. I mean, you go back to last Saturday, but really what we've seen, you get some people saying, all right, it was one bad game for Payton Thorne against Cal. That's really not true. He wasn't very good all of 2023 either. And so there's a pretty big sample size of what Payton Thorne is as a quarterback. And I know there was some optimism, even from myself, that surrounding Payton Thorne with the weapons that he needs on the outside, maybe you see him take a step. Look, we just haven't seen that step. And Payton Thorne's not going to be back in 2025. So why not just go to Hank Brown, who again has shown that he gives you just as good of a chance to win football games, and see what Hank Brown can do as a redshirt freshman. Because again, what we saw against Maryland in the bowl game for a true freshman that was working as a scout team quarterback, the third string quarterback, I think maybe even the fourth team quarterback throughout that 2023 season, he comes in, he goes 7-9 for over 100 yards, 132 yards against Maryland in that second half. Like, we've seen Hank Brown play at a very high level. You can go back to Hank Brown as a kid coming out of high school, Lipscomb Academy. Hugh Freeze found this diamond in the rough when he was at Liberty, right? He was committed to Hugh Freeze at Liberty. Hugh Freeze obviously comes over to Auburn and says, hey, I still really like Hank Brown. I think he can play SEC football. And Hugh Freeze took Hank Brown's commitment to Auburn after he took the job. And so there is clear trust and evidence that, Hugh Freeze thinks very highly of Hank Brown. And we've seen really good things, right? 6'4", 210. This kid can absolutely spin it. He can make just about any throw that you might see on the football field. I think a lot of Auburn fans are really excited to see what Hank Brown looks like as a true quarterback one running this offense against New Mexico. And I think finally it just makes a ton of sense at this point during your schedule. Like, you could go with Payton Thorne. He'd probably have a decent game against New Mexico, who's not a very good defense, maybe even a good game against Arkansas. But then you play Oklahoma and Payton Thorne struggles again. and you lose that football game, what are you going to do? Start Hank Brown against Georgia on the road, his first career start? If you were going to make the change, I think this was the time to make the change. And I think that's why Hugh Freeze decided to do it. It's a game against New Mexico that flat out grades as one of the worst defenses at the FBS level. Hank Brown should be able to have a lot of success in this football game. And then you play Arkansas at home, which again, I think that's a defense that Hank Brown can build some confidence with. And then you get Oklahoma, which is a tough defense, but you get him at home. You give him 3 games at home before he potentially goes on the road to Georgia to kind of get his feet wet. Like, we know this kid is very, very talented. I think he could certainly be the quarterback of the future. And now over the next couple of weeks and really the next couple of months, assuming Hank Brown might be the guy the rest of 2024, which is what I would assume, we're going to get the opportunity to really know if Hank Brown's a quarterback that can win at the highest level in 2025. And if the answer is no, and he's not ready, maybe Walker White is ready by 2025. But again, this Auburn team going into 2025, if they need to go to the transfer portal, they'll know. Like, there's enough games on this schedule where you're going to know what Hank Brown's about. And if you do need to go to get a quarterback in the transfer portal, you have plenty of time to kind of situate that. And it's going to be a very attractive destination. If you're a transfer quarterback and you're looking at where you should play your football in 2025, Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons, Hugh Freeze running the offense, this is a very attractive spot for a quarterback to come and transfer into. Hugh Freeze took a lot of heat in terms of why did he not go to the transfer portal and grab a quarterback heading into 2024. I think his answer would be, we weren't necessarily ready to win 10, 11, 12 ball games. I think we'll be ready as a team in 2025, and then the missing piece might be the quarterback. But I think Hugh Freeze knew we weren't a quarterback away from winning an SEC championship in the 2024 season. And so why would I push and throw so much money at a one-year rental quarterback when I can go get Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson on the high school recruiting trail? And then next year, you're going to have a team that's ready to compete at the highest level. And if you want to go push your chips in and go grab a quarterback or in December and January in the transfer portal, I think it'd make a lot more sense. I think Hugh Freeze has always been building to 2025, and starting Hank Brown gives you the ability to say, hey, is Hank Brown going to be a guy that we can achieve our goals with in 2025? Or are we going to need to go to the transfer portal? We're going to find out over the next couple of weeks. I think this Auburn, New Mexico game has a ton of juice now with Hank Brown starting. I'm excited. I know the Auburn fans are excited. We'll close it out there. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Would love to hear how you guys are feeling in the comment section. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.